Here in Washington, D.C., at the headquarters of the AFL-CIO, AFL-CIO President George Meany and National Cope Director Al Barkan discuss the coming elections. The challenges and the stakes, they agree, make 1970 the big one.
President Meany, in the audience watching this film are the people who will be responsible for the Cope fieldwork in the 1970 election. I know they have two questions uppermost in their mind on which they would like your views. How do we win, and how crucial are this year's elections?
Well, first of all, there is no simple solution, no magic formula for winning elections. The answer is simply hard work. Now, the people who did the Cope job in 1968 know that, Al. That's how we built our unions, and that's how labor was successful in the last presidential election. It's worth taking a look at what happened in that election. Remember all the news predictions that we were beaten, that our members had deserted us for George Wallace. Well, Cope recruited over 72,000 pre-election workers and added 4.6 million voters to the registration rolls on Election Day. Nearly 100,000 trade unions were mobilized in a massive get-out-the-vote drive that came within a hairbreadth of electing Hubert Humphrey. Through the specialized use of campaign material and literature, amounting to millions of pieces, the Wallace appeal was blunted. Cope did a tremendous job against overwhelming odds, with little or no outside help, and kept the Congress from going conservative. So I don't have to tell the men and women who led that effort in the field that there is no substitute for hard work when it comes to winning elections. This year is no exception. If anything, the work will be harder. The voter registration drive will be more difficult because of one thing: voter apathy is greater in off-year elections. And there's a real danger here. We know that many of our members don't get as excited about congressional elections as they do during a presidential election. And because of this, fewer of our members go to the polls in congressional years. But the conservative vote always comes out, and a combination of high voter turnout by conservatives and low voter turnout by our members, that hurts good candidates. This is something we have to prevent. That is why Cope's annual registration system is so important. That means checking union memberships against official registration files and then going to work to get the unregistered registered. Well, how do we do this? Through hard work, personal contact, phone calls, door knocking, and follow-up inquiries. That means organizing the registration drive at work, in the union hall, and in the precincts where workers live. You will be hampered by archaic state laws designed to keep many people from registering and voting. The law is a barrier wherever complicated and inconvenient registration policies are found, like the practice of closing registration books months before an election, confusing and conflicting rules on absentee voting, restrictive residency requirements, restricted registration hours in almost inaccessible downtown locations, denial of door-to-door or mobile registration systems. Cope will furnish information on voter registration and election laws because knowledge of these laws is necessary to conducting a successful voter registration drive. And wherever possible, we must work to simplify the laws and make registration as an aid to voting rather than a barrier to voting. The next big need is money. Voter registration drives cost money. So do campaigns. For example, John Lindsay's election in 1969 as mayor of New York City is estimated to have cost over $2 million. A single congressional candidate in a rural Midwestern district spent over $75,000 in a special election last year, and even then his victory was only marginal. Cope helps labor's friends who face stiff election challenges. We do it with the money raised in the Give a Buck to Cope campaigns. This year, 21 out of the 35 United States senators up for election are our good friends. Every one of them is involved in a very close race for re-election. In the House of Representatives, there are at least 100 friendly members who come from close marginal districts and who face tough election fights for survival. These are incumbent friends who need money. We need money to defeat our incumbent enemies too. And the state houses and governorships are crucial too if the people are to be represented fairly in new congressional districts that will be set up for the 1972 elections. Every one of these campaigns costs money. Millions will be matched against the candidates we support. But with hard work and a COPE dollar from every union member, we can win. Al Barkan and his staff will be sending you information and assistance on conducting the COPE dollar drive. It is absolutely essential that this drive be the most successful ever.
President Meany, let's turn to the issues of the campaign. In a sense, I guess, it is the second question I ask. How crucial are these elections?
They just couldn't be more important. Just think about what would happen if we lose the Congress. Last year, we saw an all-out effort to stop Labor's political activity, even to prevent us from conducting nonpartisan voter registration drives. It was defeated, but its promoters are just waiting for another chance, and they'll get it if the Senate and House fall to the conservatives. They have other proposals as well: to outlaw coordinated bargaining, to dismantle the National Labor Relations Board, to place unions under antitrust laws. Here is a book full of their proposals, the proposals of the United States Chamber of Commerce to reform the labor laws. And I can tell you that everything they do in the way of reformation will be disastrous as far as we're concerned. All of these proposals and others like them could become law if the conservatives gain control of the Congress. And then there's the other side of the coin. All the needed legislation that just wouldn't stand a chance in a conservative Congress. And this legislation is as crucial as air and water are to life. Today, dirty air and dirty water are jeopardizing our very lives and the balance of nature itself. And the next Congress must face up to those problems. Then there are the hard facts of life that we don't all share in the wealth, power, and privileges of America. This fact has led to division and turmoil among the people. Half-hearted, underfinanced, piecemeal programs to eliminate barriers to education and to end the urban crisis, poverty, slum, housing, discrimination, and hardcore unemployment must be made realistic. They started well in the early 60s, then faltered, and they haven't achieved their goals. Now the Congress and the states must measure up to the needs of America. Full funding and full implementation of these programs is needed, along with tax systems that equitably distribute the burden of providing for them. So social progress and tax justice are issues in this 1970 campaign too. Their achievement is crucial to the direction the country will take, whether it will move ahead on the path of democracy, justice, and progress, or whether it will veer deeper into the ruts of reaction, violence, and civil strife. Underlying the issues at stake in this year's elections are our fundamental values for life, democracy, and freedom. To make certain that trade unionists know the issues and the stakes of the election, COPE will be sending factual material to you for distribution to your rank and file members throughout the year. I urge you to make full use of it, to become familiar with the issues, to pass the material on to others who may not have the facts. This campaign must be based on facts, not propaganda, for facts help win elections too. The best yardstick of how your elected officials performed are their own voting records. Once again, COPE will distribute the voting records of congressmen and senators on key issues. In the 1970 elections, it is fair to say that such key issues will include tax justice, Social Security, the poverty program, hunger, education, job training, voting rights, crime control, and of course, the Hainsworth nomination. Of course, there are also important issues on which no vote will be taken, like tight money, high interest rates, excessive profits, and inflation. The candidates will have to be heard on these issues, and we'll know them by the positions they take. Finally, elections are won by getting the most votes. That is why COPE runs its Get Out the Vote drive. Every year, this drive has improved. Nothing should be spared in launching it this year. We have a tested and proven system that enlists the efforts of all segments of the labor movement, from the local union level through the city and state central body to the international union level. Get Out the Vote organization manuals, promotion literature, and manpower enlistment programs will be available for your use. But a successful Get Out the Vote drive, as we all know, requires massive amounts of time, effort, and voluntary manpower. Hard work, but in the end, it's the vote that counts. No one ever said that making democracy work is easy, but it is certainly worthwhile. And the one organization in America that can do this job is COPE. We proved it in 1968 when thousands of our members all pulled together, registered their fellow workers, informed them about candidates and issues, getting out the vote on Election Day. This is the job we must do again this year, every single one of us, and that means you.
Thank you, President Meany.